Thank you for joining Vancouver Bitcoiners. Please enjoy our next guest speaker. Thank you to our sponsor, Bull Bitcoin, Canada's premier Bitcoin company since 2013.
So I'm Bill here on Boracay Island in the Philippines. We have built ourselves a pretty nice community.
If you go on btcmap.org, this is what you're going to see. This is about 250 businesses on our small island that accept Bitcoin today. To give you a sense of scale, the thin part there is about a 10-minute walk from side to side, and that is where most of the tourists are going to spend most of their time. When you come onto the island from the mainland there, what you're going to do is take a ferry across, and then, to give you a sense of scale the other way, it would take about 45 minutes to an hour to get to the northern tip of the island by taking these electric golf carts that are the main form of transportation on the island. So that gives you a sense of scale of how many businesses we have on this tiny island. And to give you some kind of a breakdown here, this is the last time we classified them, what we had. So, you know, there's coffee and tea spots, restaurants, bars, food carts for the more adventurous, hotels, and then if you're more of a digital nomad or a local, we also have grocery stores, produce, seafood and meat, the little homemade restaurants that pop up everywhere. And then a very important part of this is also the Filipino convenience stores. These things are called sari-saris, and they are everywhere on the island and in the Philippines in general. So yeah, scale that up to 250, but that gives you a sense of what is on the island for you. So the question is, how did we get 300 businesses to join this in 6 months? This is our team, and these are the people that did the bulk of getting businesses to onboard. So the question I want to answer is, when they walk into a Filipino store like this, what are the words that they need to say that's going to lead to her saying yes and joining the Bitcoin network that day? I know a lot of people are trying to onboard their local businesses, and this is what we found that works. So this is going to be an idealized interaction. They don't always go like this, but these are the key points that I was trying to get our workers to talk about with people. So first thing is, we go in and say, I'm here on business. Is the owner or the manager here? This is specific because first we want to make sure they know that we're not asking for a manager because someone's in trouble. And the second thing is that we only want to talk to the person that can say yes. It doesn't do us a lot of good to talk to a worker that cannot sign up for Bitcoin. So we've got to find our access to power. The next thing is, we're going to say, I am with a payment system similar to Gcash. Gcash would be probably equivalent to PayPal if you have that there, only it has more of a point of sale aspect here in the Philippines. So what we're trying to do is be equal to something that they know. Everyone here knows what Gcash is, and it is the bank for a lot of unbanked Filipino. Then we're going to tell them the problem with Gcash is that it's for Filipino only. They know this is true. Only Filipino can sign up for this. And we get a lot of foreigners here. So I'm saying a lot of statements that they know are true, and that builds rapport. And I am getting to the point of pain, which is there's a lot of foreigners that come here on vacation, and they cannot pay with an electronic wallet. So then I asked them, may I show you a 2-minute demo? We put a time limit on here so that they feel comfortable saying yes. They don't want to sign up for a demo that might last an hour or a half hour. So we've got to make a very crisp demo. And this is what that demo is going to look like. Every business has one of these static QRs that is printed and is laminated that we give them. If you were to decode this, it just goes to a tip link that anyone can use, like in our case, app.pouch.ph Pouch/island. So that's where that goes. Now, Pouch, the wallet that we're signing up everyone with, knows how to read that natively and automatically makes a Lightning invoice. So we scan that and say, okay, we want to pay 100 pesos. That's about $2 US. And then we hit send payment, and they see that it's that easy to send a payment using this. That may not seem like a big deal doing that, but the dominant e-wallet here, most people have self-onboarded, and they never figured out how to print out their own QRs. So you end up having to type in the username and phone number, and a lot of times they don't know what it is, so they have to go in the back and find it. So this is already a great improvement to what's already there. So now in tech demos, you do it once very quickly, and then you do it again slower. So we say, well, what about foreigners? So I open up the Pouch app and I say, okay, I want to receive at store 100 pesos. I show a QR code, and what comes up is a true blue Lightning invoice. And that's what you, as a foreigner coming here, would be able to use. So I show that, and then I copy it because I only have one phone, or I would scan it if I could, and it would look something like this. And then I hit confirm, and I tell them that you can do this with any Bitcoin wallet around the world. This is actually the first time that we mentioned Bitcoin in the pitch, because we are using Bitcoin purely on a utilitarian basis. We will get them down the rabbit hole later, but my first goal is to get them with a Bitcoin wallet in their hands. Okay, so they can see that for me, it's $1.72 US coming from Strike, but for them, it's 100 pesos. And this is one of our key phrases that comes up. What you invoice is what you keep. What's implied in this is that there are no fees for the merchant. If they invoice 100, they keep 100. They don't care about the price of Bitcoin. They don't care about the foreign exchange rate, because what they invoice is what they keep. So they really like this idea. Now, at this point, they're going to ask, how do I get the money out? When they ask this, we already know that we have won. They're already envisioning themselves using this app, and now they want to know how they get out to fiat. And this is really what gives our community the unfair advantage that a lot of other communities are struggling with, is by using this Pouch, which is in many ways similar to Strike, if you're familiar with that from the States, then they can just simply bank transfer out. Their unit of account is pesos. And so this is a list of all of the banks in the Philippines, including the two dominant e-wallets, Gcash and PayMaya, and they can send that out for 15 pesos, which is like 20, 30 cents American. This is a very normal charge anytime you're moving funds anywhere, so they are used to that. Okay. The other way that they can get money out is by phone credits. Phone credits are a big deal here. Most people do not have a monthly cell phone plan. They just buy a few pesos worth of phone credits at a time. And because they're unbanked, they end up going to these tiny convenience stores, give them 105 pesos, and through a really weird process with a second phone and a SIM card that the store has to maintain, they will be able to get those credits on their phone. And so by giving Pouch to these merchants, now instead of having 5 phones for all of the 5 different carriers, they can have one phone and send it to any of them. We don't have an upcharge, and so they can just put on that 5% premium to their customers and keep it all as profit. So that's another way that they can get the pesos or the Bitcoin out of the system for them. Next, we will show them the map. The map is quite impressive with the 250 businesses. We zoom in on their area and show all of the local businesses that accept Bitcoin already, so they know that they can also just spend to some of their local businesses. And even if they don't sign up today, it's a small island. They're going to talk to the other people on the island that already accept. We give them some free signage. And for our bigger businesses, we'll make custom signage that matches their decor. This is one of my favorites for Valhalla Restaurant. And then to make this process even quicker, I've pre-printed a bunch of QR codes using words from the BIP39 list. So I will have a pre-made, pre-laminated code. So if they just use one of my names like Good Captain, Rich Heart, Nice Flower, then they can use that as a username, sign up right then, get their sticker, get their QR code, and they are ready to go. And so that is how she got to be Hidden Shell here on the island, and now she accepts Bitcoin, and she's a big fan of these play to earn Bitcoin apps. So she's playing that and sending that to her account quite frequently. And that is what we do. A general sales idea here is when they say yes, shut up and sign them up. We can tell them all the beautiful details of becoming a Bitcoiner later, but as soon as they decide that they want to try this, get them signed up. A lot of people want to keep talking. Nothing better can happen once they've said yes, so sign them up. And that's what we do. The other reason that I'm here is we have got a pretty good ecosystem, and we need people to come and spend on it and enjoy living on a Bitcoin standard for their 3-day vacation. Maybe a digital nomad will stay here for a month. We had a guy here for a month. He was 100% Bitcoin kind of guy in his life already, and I'm not even sure he ever got pesos. He was just living on Bitcoin here for a month. I live 90% on Bitcoin here on the island, and we are having a retreat a couple of days after the Vietnam event. So if you go to Vietnam, you can just fly on over here and go to our 3-day event a few days later. So we'd really like to get more people here spending and supporting the ecosystem. The Bitcoin Beach, the original, they started with an influx of money from an anonymous donor. We instead are looking for a lot of anonymous donors to come here, have a nice vacation on a white sand beach, and do it all paying with Bitcoin. So that's it. That's how we created this in about 6-7 months.
I'm really impressed that you share with us all the secret sauce of your business. Thank you so much. It was a very generous talk. Any questions?
Does he ever go back and check to see how much people are using it? I mean, even amongst people on the island, I mean, are people, is it the circular economy type thing? I mean, are people using it and all that kind of stuff?
Can you hear that, Bill, or should
I heard that. So we do a sweep of the island every month or month and a half, 2 months. Right now, we know that we're hiring on a new full-time guy, so we haven't had a sweep in a little while. But his first duty is going to go to every known business and try and spend, refresh their signage, make sure they have their QR codes, do retraining. So we do sweep the island fairly frequently. Now, when we look at what we have here, it's broken down into small local businesses and the bigger tourist businesses. The bigger tourist businesses are more serious about training and keeping staff up to date and making sure they know how to accept. So those we put on a separate, here, let me show you here. This is nice. So you can see here, these are the tourist maps. These are a lot more usable than BTC maps, simply because BTC maps, when you get 250 businesses on an island, it's actually hard to find what you're looking for. So we've pulled out those businesses that are going to be of more interest to the tourists. So you can see the hotels, and here's the food. This is where most tourists spend most of their money. And all of these, I feel very confident that when you walk in, they are going to know how to use this. They've been trained and retrained. And I mostly, when I go out to eat, go to these places. When I pass by, I'll walk in and make sure the server remembers or was trained how to use it. So training is absolutely ongoing here. Sometimes a tourist is going to get unlucky and find, that server that didn't get trained. And so you have to be insistent and say, can I talk to the manager? And they'll remember. A lot of times if they weren't trained, they're just going to be negative on it. But we know that the business does accept, and it's just a training issue. So if we go through here, hotels, food, coffee, services, and all of these are places that I end up going a lot because I know this is where the tourists are. And so I'm just constantly making sure that whoever's on duty remembers how to use it. Now, the smaller businesses, these are a lot harder to track down. These businesses are very informal, and, they might be running it, but then they leave and their brother, their cousin takes over for the day or the week, and they may not have been trained. Some of these businesses are more mobile. So when we signed them up, they were a hair braider and they were sitting here for the week, but they might have changed later. So the local businesses are a little bit harder to track down. Their signage, these businesses, they put product in every surface that they can find, and a lot of times they will cover up the Bitcoin accepted here sign. So when you're going to the local businesses, it can be more of a challenge. But they do accept once you can find them and track them down. We put them on the map, but it's part of the fun.
Any other question?
How many, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. How many people converted directly back to local currency versus keep it in the wallet?
Yeah. So the question was, how many are keeping it in pesos versus Bitcoin? So I would say a lot of them are going out to pesos eventually. Because of regulation, we are not currently allowed to keep it in a Bitcoin balance. We have to deal with the regulatory environment we are in. So it is immediately converted to pesos for them. However, it is a Lightning wallet, and if they want to self-custody, which we encourage, then they can just send that balance right out to their own self-custody wallet. So they all have that ability. And what we're seeing is over time, as they start accumulating a balance there and they become more familiar with Bitcoin, seeing the signs everywhere, they're asking us, well, how do I just move this to Bitcoin? And that's where we're winning. Right now, it's the bigger businesses, the ones that, the $100 that they've gotten in sales in the last month or whatever it is. It doesn't change their lives a whole lot. So they're like, well, I'm just going to send it to a Bitcoin wallet. And they do. So that is nice to see. I believe adoption is a ladder. First thing is getting people to have a positive view of Bitcoin. And they are starting to on the island because we've got our big office sign. Having an office gives us a lot of legitimacy. Seeing the Bitcoin accepted signs everywhere makes them trust it more. It's on those little golf carts. We've got about 50 of those, all the businesses. So we're getting on that part of the ladder. Next is getting a wallet in their hands. We're doing that. Then getting them to switch over to saving in Bitcoin. And they have that ability right now, and it's a matter of training and desire. But they have the ability that they did not have 7 months ago. So I'm not going to say that a lot of them are saving in Bitcoin, but it is happening. Very recently, one of our smaller Filipino businesses came to me because they trust me because I have an office, and told me a heartbreaking story about her sister was getting scammed by some bullshit cloud mining thing. She asked me about it. And I'm like, yeah, that is absolutely a scam. And so she trained her sister to how to realize that these things are scam, got her sister out of that, and then asked, how can I get into Bitcoin if that's the real thing? And so I sat her down, got her on Wallet of Satoshi, and she just cleaned out her pouch balance, about $22, and put it into Bitcoin. And thankfully, we've had a run up of like 30% since then. So I think number go up technology is going to help get her to convince her friends about this. So it's a slow process, but it is happening.
So we have a last question?
Yeah, the gentleman.
I'll answer the question.
Oh, okay.
I'll be real quick. So if the merchant isn't paying a transaction fee, is the purchaser paying? If so, what's the percentage? And
Yeah. So that's where we as a company are going to be making our money. We're not really looking to make money off of retail. It is really in a form a remittance. And so what happens, let's say they want to charge 100 pesos. When they do that, the Lightning invoice that is created is actually for 101 pesos, 100 for the merchant, 1 for us. And so it is on the payer, they are paying that 1% uplift that we add into it. Now, when you compare that to if you're a tourist here and your other option is to pay with cash, the ATMs here limit you to about $200 at a time pulling out. That way they can charge you the $5 fee more often. And so it is actually a savings relative to using cash for our tourists. But yeah, that's where we make the money. And what we're really after is the remittance market into the Philippines. Every day, $100 million comes into the Philippines in remittances from their families that are working overseas. On average, they are paying 7% in fees. So I want you to envision a pile of $7 million with a joker in front of it, setting it on fire, and that happens every day here. When we can do it for a 1% uplift, that would save the Filipino $6 million a day. And that wouldn't be concentrated into a few hands. That would be spread out among all the families of all the workers in the Philippines. So this has the potential to make a big difference for all the families in the Philippines. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
So thank you so much. This has been extremely insightful. And if people want to get in touch with you, then what will be the easier way to contact you?
You can find us on Twitter as Bitcoin Island PH or Bitcoin Island HQ. They're the same person, me. And I'm just Bill at Pouch.ph. And if you just go to Pouch.ph, you see this this map and on Boracay, and then over here is the retreat where we have information about coming here for that 3-day retreat, and I'd really love to see some people fly over. So thank you for your time, and please reach out to me with any questions.
A big thank you to Vancouver Bitcoiners executive crew. This would not happen without all of you. And finally, big thank you to Murdoch Media for producing all of these episodes.